What's up, fellas, ladies, gentlemen? It's time for Wake Up Mintzy, presented by the lovely folks of Dude Wipes, and I'm glad we have Dude Wipes this morning to clean up the mess. Because if you're a New Orleans Saints fan, that's exactly what last night was. The Saints got the absolute hell beaten out of them on Monday Night Football by the defending Super Bowl champion Kansas City Chiefs. This game was nowhere near as close as the 26-13 final score. The Chiefs had almost 500 yards of offense after looking terrible on offense the last few weeks. And I got to say, I'm try to be a pretty upbeat guy. I'm a positive energy guy. It's hard to be upbeat about the Saints right now. And we're joined by Tyler Moody, as always, from Louisiana. Mr. Moody, I know you're pulling it up. How are you doing this morning?
Hey, good morning, Ben. I'm pretty good this morning. Got a couple dubs yesterday. Had a pretty good day across the board, so I'm waking up pretty happy.
Well, as always, Dude Wipes to clean up all our messes. Let it rip with Dude Wipes, Target, Amazon, Walmart, nationwide. It's a revolution. Check out the Dumpkin Spice brand. Perfect for October. I'm drinking some Stella Blue coffee. I'm trying to wake up and get my mind right. I got it. Shout out to Stan's Donuts, too, a local business that has Stella Blue. I ordered some Positive Vibes light roast, and I needed the Positive Vibes this morning, Moody, because let's go back to 22 days ago after the Saints beat the hell out of Dallas 44-19 week 2. And I know we said it. No one's ever won the Super Bowl week 2. Moody, that was 22 days ago. It feels like it was 6 months ago with what's happened the last 3 weeks of the Saints. They fall to 2-3. And look, let's not be real, unrealistic. I didn't necessarily think they were going to beat the Chiefs, but I thought they could fight more. They got the shit kicked out of them last night. That score being 26-13 is deceiving. The KC offense without Rashee Rice, I guess you don't even say Hollywood Brown because he never played it down, and Pacheco, they had like almost 500 yards. KC had an interception in the end zone. They missed a field goal. That game, they could have scored 40 points. And if you're the Saints right now, Derek Carr goes down with an oblique injury. This thing is all of a sudden you're not at stage 5 yet, but you're getting pretty damn close to panicking here.
Well, I felt like I had to be the voice of reason after week 2, reminding everybody how down they were on the Saints, then how up they were on the Saints, and now Saints fans are right back where they were at to start the season. This is exactly who we thought they were going to be coming into the season, though, to be honest. Bad offensive line play, Derek Carr being up and down, the defense maybe not being as good as it's been in the past, and that's exactly what we saw last night. I would be a little bit worried right now if I'm the Saints or a Saints fan. I really would be. On the other side of that, though, the conference or the division is not that good, so I think the Saints still have a chance to win the South.
Well, Moody froze. But no, the Saints thing now 2-3, and we're gonna see what happened with Derek Carr's oblique injury. I mean, they're in a total must-win on Sunday at home against the Bucs. It's a spot where Tampa's 3-2, Atlanta's 3-2. The Saints lost to Atlanta, and so the Bucs Atlanta has a tiebreaker over them now. If they lose this Tampa game and fall to 2-4, I mean, they're burying themselves in a humongous hole that's going to be hard to get out of. Bad, though, just look. The offensive line couldn't block. The defense got gashed. Travis Kelce looked like he was 22 again out there last night. He said it. Total ass whipping. And, yeah, it was pretty depressing. So, the Tampa Bay comes in next Sunday at 3-2 off a heartbreaking loss to Atlanta, but they've had a long week to get ready off playing a Thursday night game. Saints on a short week. We'll find out about Derek Carr, who left the game with an oblique injury. Can he go Sunday? But definitely some concern on the Saints front, that's for sure. Hopefully Moody's in the process of reconnecting, but just got to flush that Saints thing. It's just when you get your freaking hopes up so much. And I know I try to be balanced, but I mean, how could you not be excited after week 2 in that Dallas game? They outscored Carolina and Dallas 91-26 in 2 weeks, and 3 weeks later, you lose 2 heartbreakers, you have a ton of injuries, and then you get the hell beaten out of you at KC, which has happened to many people before and after. But all of a sudden, everything's gone downhill on the New Orleans front. I've been into the baseball. All of a sudden, baseball playoffs, though, unbelievable. We got 4 series that are 3 out of 5 right now that are all 1-1. Crazy. Yesterday, that Tigers-Guardians game, just riveting stuff. And shout out Dave Portnoy. He had a freaking gigantic 20K parlay for 130K. Tarek Skubal continues to prove why he is the Cy Young in the American League. He came out and mowed down the Guardians. This thing was 0-0 into the ninth inning, and Kerry Carpenter hit a 3-run home run off of Manuel Clase, who was easily the best closer in baseball, only had 5 earned runs the entire year. But what a moment for the Tigers to get this thing back to Detroit at 1-1. I know they're like the Cinderella team. It was a total miracle that they even got, in the playoffs. And then they get just a huge 3-run shot by Kerry Carpenter to take it back. It was thrilling. Happy for them. And then the Royals bounced back last night at the Yankees. Really good well-played game by them. We had a stream. The Yankees fans did not look happy. This thing going back to KC and 1-1 all 4 series. And today we've got the Mets and Phillies from New York at 1-1. And then we've also got the Padres and Dodgers resuming. So I don't know how you could be more excited about the baseball stuff. And like I said, man, the October baseball playoffs, they've just totally brought me back in this year. Just all of them are great. And, 3 out of 5 series, all 1-1. We're looking at some serious elimination games. And then how about Frank the Tank? Shout out Frank. Getting to live one of his childhood dreams, going to a Mets home playoff game today. Obviously the streams we've been having in New York with this Phillies-Mets series are awesome. This Mets misfit crew is taking the world by storm with Clemmer and KFC and Frank the Tank and Meat Phil and Clem and Rico. We've got an awesome Mets crew. Phillies, with Roan and Smitty and Max. We've got just a really fun Barstool situation on that, but they're letting Frank go to the game today, and that's awesome. Moody, you're back.
Yeah, I don't know what happened right there. I'll be flat out honest with you.
Well,
but we are back. And
Moody, you're the best, though, dude. You know how to manage all the dude. We always get by. It's pretty unreal.
Well, it is the Wake Up Mintzy effect. There's no doubt. One thing I will say, I heard you jumping over to the MLB. Tremendous stuff yesterday from the Royals. They had to have that game. It was imperative for them to win that game with Reagans on the hill. They got it done. Same thing can be said for the Tigers. It's pretty much everything we said yesterday. I told you the score was going to be 27-14 in the Chiefs game. We were spot on. I told you
you were spot. No.
Yesterday.
You were spot on
across the board, across the damn board yesterday. I was just spitting gold all day yesterday. The only thing that didn't happen was I was this close to that Kansas City first touchdown. That hurt me just a little bit, and then I needed Juan Soto to hit a home run for the 17-1 parlay. It didn't happen, but damn, we were this close. But outside of that, I was pretty on it yesterday.
No, you were exact on that Chiefs Saints. You said 27-14 on here, and it was 26-13. You said the Chiefs.
And I said that Derek Carr wouldn't finish the game, and we were right about that as well. So it didn't happen in the fashion that I thought it would. I thought Chris Jones was going to pick him up and body slam his ass. But yeah, the Kansas City offense for the first time looked legitimate. It was the Kansas City offense of old, and that was good to see if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yeah, and Kareem Hunt looked great too. And the thing with him, even though he's 29, there's not a lot of tread on the tires because he was had all those problems. So he's actually still got some juice left, and it seems like they found something with him. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, 130 yards. My parlay, I went for the moon with Worthy. Didn't hit. Kelsey had the big game against the Saints. They took a couple shots deep to Worthy. He got a 46-yard PI call. He ended up having a rushing touchdown. Mahomes missed him over the middle. Whatever, dude. He still scored. But, man, if you're the Chiefs, and, even in fantasy, too, we've been talking about Patrick Mahomes not being a fantasy quarterback. I know he may have not had the biggest game last night because he had a touchdown, but the 500 yards, you can comfortably start him again. Looked very good. Chiefs 5-0. At this point in the NFL, it's like we get all excited about the season, and then, the Chiefs are always 5 or 6 to 1 to win the Super Bowl. They should be even money every year. It's them versus the field.
You know who we're not giving enough credit today is Andy Reid.
Oh,
Andy Reid, he just deserves tons of credit because that offense with so many pieces out looked as good as it has looked in a long time, and I think Andy Reid deserves a lot of that credit. His ability to take what he has presented in front of him and turn it into a 500-yard offense is just so impressive. Yes, I understand that Patrick Mahomes is the motor, the cog, the key cog in this offense. But damn, Andy Reid deserves a ton of credit for getting them prepared, showing up, and putting together their best performance of the season.
And then, just the way they recycle players. McCole Hardman goes to the Jets. They bring him back last year after the Jets don't want him. He catches the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl. And then Juju Smith-Schuster, who was good on the Super Bowl team 2 years ago, couldn't do anything in New England. couldn't even make the Patriots roster with their wide receiver situation in case he just brings it back and he puts up a $130 on Monday Night Football. Yeah, you give credit to Andy Reid. That's ridiculous.
100%.
Like, that's literally insane. When's the last time the Patriots had a receiver get 100 yards in a game? I can't even tell you. I literally don't even know. And, yeah, I mean, you just got to give him credit. We got Todd Ferman of Bet the Board, one of my favorite gambling follows ever on Twitter. He's been all over Fox Sports Net. He's on in 5 minutes.
I'm going to jump out so he can jump into the call, actually.
Yeah, let's get a couple more minutes before that. Before we jump on, get on Todd, though, I just want to, I'll just introduce him when he comes on. I want to run through the baseball stuff with you before we get to Todd. All right, we're on DraftKings as always. Moody, 4 series, all 1-1, 3 out of 5. I'm riveted. I'm back. I'm back on pro baseball. I never thought I'd say that. I love the college, but it's just the October, man. It's playoff baseball, just unbelievable. How about that Tigers 3-run shot by Kerry Carpenter off Clase yesterday?
Yeah, I saw people calling him Kerry Bonds. Obviously, I've been betting some Kerry Carpenter home runs this season. Didn't have him yesterday because he wasn't in the starting lineup, but this kid can flat out hit. He crushes right-handed pitching. He had the 3rd best OPS against right-handed pitching this season. He is a monster when a righty is on the hill, and he's clearly showing the clutch gene as well. Great stuff from the Tigers. Skubal was electric, tremendous, Cy Young. The best pitcher in baseball right now is Tariq Skubal. I have no problem saying that.
You see Dave Portnoy's parlay?
I did see his parlay. Yeah, I love that he did that. Skubal got him those 7 Ks quickly. Then all I needed was the Tigers to wrap it up on the money line. I know that was fun for him at the end to watch Kerry Carpenter hit that bomb.
Dave just crushing it, as always.
Yeah,
he's had a great gambling year, though. Great gambling year. Today, 2 games. So we got the NL games. We got a 4:08 first pitch Central. Aaron Nola against Sean Manaea. Phillies and Mets pretty much pick them over under 7. What you think in New York?
I kind of lean to the over on both games today.
Nola's not as good as he used to be.
He's not. He's hit or miss, and I think you're going to see the same thing with Walker Buehler in the second game. They both are guys that have had really high peaks during their major league career, but they can have some real lows. But Nola, they gave him the money to be the guy in Philadelphia. They need him to show up and show out in this series. I like the over. We'll see. I don't love it, but I kind of lean Phillies because of Nola. I think Manaea could get hit by the right-handers in the lineup. I think Trey Turner could have a good day today for the Phillies, but I think I just lean the over. I don't love it in that game, though.
Okay, and then, man, you've been talking about this. I know all the Barstool attention's on the Phillies-Mets with all our characters, but this Padres-Dodgers series, the animosity, we saw them throwing stuff at Tatis. These teams hate each other. There's been altercations. This thing goes back to San Diego 1-1. Walker Buehler against Michael King, who the Padres traded for in the Juan Soto deal and shut down the Braves. The Padres are – dude, you see this line? The Padres are minus $1.62 today. Wow.
Which is crazy because Michael King has given up 4 home runs to Shohei Ohtani. I think Betts has a couple off of him. If I'm not mistaken, Freddie Freeman has one as well. He has been hit pretty hard by the Dodgers. The Padres have hit Walker Buehler pretty hard. Tatis has 4 home runs in his career and 29 at-bats off of Walker Buehler. So I expect this game to go over. This is the one that I really like the over in. I'm going over 7.5 here. Vegas has bumped this total up. It's one of the highest totals we've seen so far in the early stages of the postseason. I love over 7.5, and I lean to the Dodgers. I kind of think the Dodgers get it done.
A great price at plus 136 is a hell of a price. I mean, that is a really good price. I might go Dodgers over parlay there.
I love the over, though. I love the over in that game.
Well, you know what, Moody? If you love it, we ride, because I ride Moody's picks in baseball. Have for a long time. He knows more. I say it every day on here. He knows more than anyone at the company. So we're going to ride it. And we're about to be joined by Todd Ferman. You're going to jump out. He's ready on here. We'll let you bring Todd Ferman on. Todd, host of Bet the Board. Been on Fox Sports Net a ton. Look, it's funny, I've been a roadie of Bet the Board with Todd and Payne Insider for literally 10 years, going all the way back to my mixing up with Mintz days in Bossier when none of y'all knew I existed. And Todd actually came on my show in Bossier City, and I still text him and Payne a lot. I listen to the show every week. I think they do as good a job breaking down football, college and pro. Unbelievable. The personnel, the point spreads, the money movement. If you're like a gambling guy and you really want to know it, you check out Bet the Board every week. I mean, I just like I said, I mean, I've been listening to it for 10 years, and these guys are friends of mine, so I'm super honored and excited to have Todd on. Tyler's Moody's pulling him on yet, but looking ahead while we're waiting on him to come on, been looking ahead at the college lines this week. I got the fever. I had a hell of a gambling weekend. I hit that crazy plus 67.50 on the Cowboys Steelers Sunday night. Crushed them. I got away with the under last night at 43. The Chiefs went up and down the field. They should have scored way more points. But you know what? That's part of it. I'd rather be lucky than good. Had one of my best weekends, and super, super excited about keeping it rolling this week. And I've already looked ahead to college this weekend. I've talked a lot about LSU Ole Miss this weekend. Right now, Ole Miss a 3-point favorite at LSU, over under 64. Ole Miss star receiver Trey Harris might be out. Lane Kiffin said yesterday that if it was yesterday, he wouldn't have been able to play. Trey Harris from Lafayette, he's an All-American. He's easily leading the SEC in receiving. If he's out, that's going to hurt Ole Miss an absolute ton. I'm not willing to say he's out yet, though. He did leave the South Carolina game banged up. But we got 5 days till the game. Him growing up in Lafayette, it's got to mean a ton to him to play in Baton Rouge in this huge game. I know if he can walk or jog, he's going to play in this thing. And it's also hard to read Lane Kiffin and injuries. I mean, you never know what the hell's going on that front. I'm not going to claim to even know. But I am keeping an eye on that to see if we get any info as the week goes on. Because if Trey Harris is out, that does alter my opinion on this game. With Ole Miss being 3-64, I've kind of said it for a couple weeks. It's like in gambling, sometimes it's like pool where you're trying to set up the next shots and thinking steps ahead. I'm saying it. I'm going to sing it to the high heavens. I love the over. Love it. It's 64. Yeah, that seems real high, but these Ole Miss LSU games fly off the rails all the time, and Ole Miss has played 2 big-time unders in a row, 2017 against Kentucky and 27-3 against South Carolina. I think that throws people off the scent of it, and Ole Miss does have an awesome front seven, but they've not played a quarterback like Doug Nussmeier or a passing game like LSU at all in the first 6 weeks. And I think Ole Miss can go up and down the field, up-tempo on LSU's bad defense. So super excited about that. Ready for that game on Saturday night. I will be down there for that. We're doing Moody's coming down. We're doing the all-day tailgate deal in Baton Rouge. that LSU game day is so much fun. Weather's going to be great on Saturday. Going to do the all-day deal. Moody's coming down. Going to be clipping me. Shout out Game Time for our tickets. And, man, just can't wait for what's going to be a great Saturday. A little less excited about the Saints game Sunday right now after what happened on Monday night, but still excited to be in the Dome. But this Ole Miss LSU. All right, there's Todd Ferman. Hell yeah. Let's go, boys. Let's wake up. Let's get our minds right. I've been pumping Todd's tires all morning, but just been a fan.
You know, Mintzy, I got to be able to get the tech to work the right way around here. I'm not as smart as you guys over there in Chicago.
I'm pretty sure no show has more tech problems than Wake Up Mintzy because we've got Tyler Moody running it from Louisiana. It's luckily I work for Barstool where it's almost like part of the show, the mess ups here. It's a total fake it till you make it situation, and here we are 4 years later. So, but how are you doing?
Look, I respect it. You got to stay true to your roots from when we were doing sports talk radio back in your glory days, way back when. But it's rare you wake up on a Tuesday morning and get to celebrate victories for at least 2 of your 3 favorite teams, with ULM coming home, getting the big win for Ole Miss. It would have been the perfect trifecta if the Saints were able to take care of business last night in Kansas City.
Yeah, the Saints got the hell beaten out of them in that game. When you look back on it, like I had the under last night, and I got away with murder. The Chiefs had 500 yards of offense. They throw a pick in the red zone. Butker misses a field goal. Sometimes it's better to be lucky than good. But, man, I didn't see that Chiefs offensive explosion coming without all those guys out. But Andy Reid, you pulled just turning back time with Juju getting 130 yards and Kareem Hunt. I don't know. That was impressive.
It's wild to see. When you look at Kansas City, it feels like the next man up mentality. They went into that game last night, and they're going to have to go into battle without Isaiah Pacheco, no Rashee Rice, no Hollywood Brown. And to your point, Juju actually took a lot of sharp money over his player prop. I don't think anybody that went over 18.5 yards for Juju anticipated him having a catch for 50 and being the game's leading receiver. But definitely a surprise to see the Saints, a team that had played a lot of man throughout the course of the season, go zone. Didn't work early against Travis Kelce. Now, unfortunately for you boys, it looks like the Jake Haener experience is going to start in earnest this Sunday in that key divisional game.
Yeah, and a lot of people on that front. Spencer Rattler, the rookie from South Carolina, had a good preseason, and all the fan base wants him over Haener. Haener was good at Fresno State under Kalen DeBoer, but I don't know, man. I mean, it's just no one ever won the Super Bowl in week 2. But that, obviously there was so much optimism after that Cowboys game, and now that feels like it was 6 months ago for New Orleans. 3 straight losses, ton of injuries. I mean, they at home against Tampa. They lose this Tampa game Sunday.
The silver lining is, at least for Dennis Allen, he won't be the first head coach fired this year. With the news that broke about 10 minutes ago, that Jets fans feel like there is light at the end of the tunnel with no Robert Saleh there. So Allen came into the year
didn't see that.
favored in that market, and suddenly, look, he's not first to the firing squad.
Who did they promote to be the interim?
I'm waiting to see. I would love it from a narrative standpoint and pure entertainment value if all the Jets fans that have bitched and moaned about Paul Hackett being offensive coordinator, he ends up becoming the interim. But he's Aaron Rodgers' guy. So let's see exactly what Joe Douglas does and how the Jets can right this ship, because I think the most impressive graphic that came out of this weekend, you look at where the Jets are now through 5 weeks of the season, 93 points with Aaron Rodgers, exact same offensive output last year with Zach Wilson, who they couldn't run out of town fast enough given his poor performances.
Yeah, no, I've been firing the Aaron Rodgers under passing props all year long. It's been rough, and man, that's wild. That if they promote Hackett, that would be so funny. I mean, I feel like their offense is outdated. I mean, you heard Garrett Wilson last week complaining about it. They don't do enough motion. I mean, you see, how the NFL offenses have innovated and used motion. I feel like the Jets are running the scheme that Rodgers ran in Green Bay, and it seems
it's just so slow and methodical. I mean, that offensive line that everybody talked about potentially being a top 5 unit with some of the names they added. I mean, Elijah Vera Tucker looked like an absolute turnstile out there. And look, at this point in his career, I mean, Aaron Rodgers' mobility isn't going to give them the luxury of being able to extend plays. So if things start to break down and they can't get that complementary ground game going, I mean, Breece Hall has been a disappointment. Braylon Allen looks to have a little bit more burst, but this is clearly a team that has to figure things out fast. And as soon as Monday night, because you talk about key divisional games, I mean, we thought that the AFC East was going to be one of the most competitive divisions from top to bottom, and that still may be the case and resonate as the year progresses, but it may only be competitive because it could take just 9 wins for the Jets or Bills to potentially get out of that division alive, given how poor their performances have been in recent weeks.
All right, I will stay on NFL with a few things before we hit college. This Minnesota Vikings thing. No one saw this coming. How much better is how good is their coaching staff? I mean, with O'Connell and Flores, I mean, what they're pulling out of that bunch, I just think, like they were picked by everyone to finish last in that division, and now they're 5-0. It's incredible.
It's absolutely incredible. And we knew Kevin O'Connell was an offensive wizard coming from that Sean McVay coaching tree. You saw flashes of it last year with the USM product and Nick Mullins. When Mullins was in rhythm, he was completely fine. He was just done in by turnovers, which you can't always blame the coaching staff for. But Brian Flores has this defense absolutely humming. And I think a lot of people, when they looked at the roster from top to bottom, didn't truly believe in what they were capable of accomplishing this year. Now, at the same time, this team is 5-0 against the number, which is the only thing that matters in this racket. And the other incredible fact, they've trailed for a grand total of about 3.5 minutes. They have not trailed in a football game since week 1 against the New York Giants. That is one of the most remarkable feats that we've seen, especially when you consider the Vikings were underdogs in games 2, 3, and 4. And look, you want to call it a fluke. You think Sam Darnold's going to come back to earth. There's no doubt going to be some regression. But this team is playing football at a very high level, and it's going to make for that NFC North divisional race that much more compelling, given what the Lions are doing, and Big Cat's Bears starting to figure things out a little bit at a time with Caleb Williams.
Yeah, Green Bay looks fine, too. I mean, LaFleur somehow made Malik Willis look like a pro quarterback those couple of weeks. I mean, went 2-0 against the Colts and Titans. No, that division's looking really tough. Any other, I listened to Bet the Board. Like I said, I was pumping y'all's tires. I've been a Bet the Board fan for 10 years. I listen multiple times every week. I say it all the time, man. I think y'all do the best job of anybody I've seen. The way y'all break down the rosters, the personnel, the way the money moves. If you want to know about gambling and how everything, deep inside looks, listen to them. I mean, I can't give you a more glowing review. Like I said, I don't listen to many podcasts. Y'all are literally one of the only ones I listen to, and I've been doing it for 10 years.
Hey, I appreciate that. And that's one of the things. I mean, you look at what's going on now, gambling-wise. We try and make it as accessible as we can. The unfortunate part of doing the deep dive format that we do, we're not going to cover all 16 games on an NFL Sunday. We can't get through the entire college football landscape and get through 50 breakdowns of all the games in the MAC and Conference USA. So it's focusing on the marquees, trying to break down some of the analytics. And the other thing about it, too, that we've tried to do over the last couple of years is allow fans to get a look behind the curtain in terms of some of the numbers we're looking at, the players, the personnel, to your point. The problem is, Mintzy, especially in the SEC and Big Ten, fans don't want to hear any negatives about their teams. So they love to come out in full force and tell us we're idiots, we're morons. And that's part of the things we embrace. I mean, Alabama fans couldn't have told me how much more wrong I was when Georgia was the better football team for 3 quarters 2 weeks ago. Suddenly those Alabama fans aren't pounding their chest after that disappointing performance against Vandy. But it is no doubt a labor of love. Appreciate your listenership as much as anybody being a part of the ride. And yeah, 700 plus episodes we've done with those deep dives, trying to make sure that we can make people smarter sports bettors each and every week.
I mean, like the college stuff, because it's so hard to follow this transfer portals and the personnel this day and age. And like I just like listen to y'all every week and just, Payne's just ripping off how good the defensive line depth is and the 9th defensive lineman for teams. I'm just like, damn. It's just so impressive. I mean, it's just it's crazy. All right, any other NFL surprises, disappointments stand out to you so far this year?
I think when you look around and what we've seen so far, Coach McDaniel not making changes for the Dolphins offense. I mean, people want to criticize Tua at every turn, but look, you need a driver of the bus, and this Miami offense has really looked like it's stuck in quicksand. I know it's frustrated fantasy managers who are banking on big seasons from the likes of Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. So I figured he could be a little bit more inventive offensively. We'll see if Miami's able to right the ship going forward. We look at the NFC East, and while I think all of us expected Jaden Daniels to have a big-time impact, expecting him to do what he's done through 5 games
he's the NFL MVP right now. He's the NFL MVP.
This guy has been outstanding. I mean, he's stabilized that Commanders offense. His legs, we knew, were an element that was tough to defend. But his comfort level running that Cliff Kingsbury offense, I think the light bulb has gone on significantly faster. And when we look at that division, look, we were sellers of the Dallas Cowboys under their win total at 10.5. Was a little bit surprised to see them get the win on Sunday Night Football, converting that late 4th down. The Philadelphia Eagles have to get healthy, but there's no reason to believe that if Washington can get their defense just to be slightly below average, Cliff continues to call plays at a high level, and Jane Daniels in the mix, this NFC is wide open. I'm not going to say they're going to win the NFC, but they have a legitimate chance to be a playoff team as everybody else around them continues to struggle, especially in that NFC East.
Now, we were talking about preseason. They were 9-1 to win the NFC East, and I was talking about like we talked about it on this show. Is like, could Jaden Daniels go RG3 2012 on him? And that's exactly what he's doing, and then some in that division. That's for sure. Well, all right, so we'll switch over to college a little bit. First of all, how do y'all – okay. I try to do, I'm not a professional gambler. I bet $50 a unit. I mean, I follow it close. So what's the process on a week? I want to get behind the curtain on the week-to-week stuff because y'all look at models, you're looking at analytics, you're looking at line movement, you're looking at percentage of money, you're following the personnel, the injuries. Like you do deep dives Tuesday. Like how does the sausage get made here?
So most of the numbers come out on Sunday, and that's kind of the first step in the process. I mean, we have one of the best college football minds in the space on our show with us each and every Wednesday in Brad Powers, and he treats college football like it's his grocery list. I mean, he'll have 40 to 50 positions, if not more, betting into openers, using some of his power numbers. But for me, with the NFL and college, I mean, I'll go through, I'll write down the prices, I'll adjust my power numbers throughout the course of Sunday afternoon into Monday morning. Typically don't take full positions that early, and that's where things start to get a little bit more interesting. We'll go through some of the numbers that have been modeled out, try and make notes on games that I want to go back to. I'll highlight, the traditional scheduling spots, your letdowns, your look-aheads, your revenge scenarios that are there, and try and figure out exactly how I want to quantify those. I'll go through, continue to make notes as we prepare for the Wednesday Bet the Board, deep dive show for some of the marquee matchups, and that's where I'll do a lot of the readings on the big games. So when you look at a schedule like this weekend, I mean, Ole Miss, LSU going to get top billing, Ohio State, Oregon. You try and read those players' comments and quotes and continue to drill down and find that one matchup or two that you don't feel is being properly reflected in the numbers. But it's almost one of those things where, I don't want to cast aspersions at recreational bettors where they're looking for reasons to bet games. I mean, my goal, Mintzy, is to take as wide a funnel as I can and continue to narrow it down. If there's something that doesn't stick out in a particular game or an angle and a case that can be made for another team in that particular matchup, whether I come and think I'm going to play the under and I can find an angle where I go, you know what, this game could potentially be going over, like Alabama Vandy, the perfect example of that.
I was on that over too.
Yeah, I mean, I'll steer clear. And that was the thing. Like, I came in, modeled that game out, thought there was value to go over. I know the total got bet under by some influential groups. And Clark Lee said during the course of the week, hey, we want to play slow. We want to be methodical. Vandy scores on the opening drive. They get the pick six. And at that point in the game, you go, all right, I got the right team chasing where I want to be. And the game goes flying over. So oftentimes the best laid plans don't come to fruition. But that's why we keep our sheets right here nice and handy and continue to try and make notes, look for injury reports, and start poking around those deep Rolodexes to get a little bit of that intel that may or may not oftentimes be public.
Yeah, and so, all right, we'll get to that. A couple I want to ask about this week. I've been, like I said, I'm recreational, but we've been a little hot lately, so I'm feeling the fever. Two games I want to ask about. First, Penn State at USC. So I've been following a trend. I've been doing this for like 25 years. I was actually taught by a gambling mentor of mine of this. Whenever a team loses outright as a road favorite and they're a home underdog next week, I just take them blind. And it's like, it's just a bounce back spot in the building. You lose a game you're supposed to win. Everybody thinks you suck. And then you have the us against the world mentality. And you're always fading the public with it because everybody overreacts to what happened last week. That's like the biggest gambling fallacy. USC loses outright, 9.5-point favorite at Minnesota at the end. Now Penn State, cross-country trip, number 4 in the country. Not sure about their offense. Laying 5.5 against USC. You're obviously a USC and Cali guy. I like USC on the bounce back here this week. Am I crazy? They're getting 5.5.
I mean, look, when USC wins, it's a much better weekend in my household. Not necessarily because I bet them, but my lovely wife is a USC alum. So let me tell you, being a USC and Steelers fan this past weekend, Mintzy, there were a lot of 4-letter words that may or may not have been shared given how the USC game ended and how that game unfolded at Acrisure Field Sunday night with the Steelers. But you're right. I mean, when you look at it, it's all about trying to identify some of those undervalued teams. And typically when people are looking to back a side like USC, who was more than a touchdown favorite against Minnesota over the weekend, and then they have a chance to come home and try and right the ship. Look, I know USC has done nothing but take body blows over the last couple weeks. They're quickly figuring out that life in the Big Ten is a little bit different with the level of physicality they've seen from the Minnesotas of the world, the Michigans, and even Wisconsin to a lesser extent. But this is a number that would have been 3 if the game was played last weekend. And we saw the price drift as high as 6. Those were immediately cleared out of the market. And we look at USC offensively. They're not going to have to deal with 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts this weekend against that Penn State defense. I think there's a path for Miller Moss to have some success. When you look at Penn State's resume so far, where's the marquee win? I mean, they underwhelmed against Illinois with a workmanlike effort. The game against West Virginia, we know the Mountaineers secondary leaves a lot to be desired. And to your point, this Penn State offense leaves a lot to be desired. Plus, we don't even know if Nicholas Singleton is going to be out there to give them that 1-2 punch in the backfield. I mean, he was in uniform theoretically warming up with the team last week, never took a single carry. But as the number continues to drift, I think USC is no doubt a live underdog in this spot. The one concern I do have is along that defensive line. Can they hold up for 4 quarters? But I think SC playing at home, a chance to right the ship and get a marquee win. I'm right there with you. I lean Trojans at 5.5, hoping the number gets back to 6 so I can take a smaller position on it.
Yeah, on that. All right, some other big games to touch on this week. Ohio State, Oregon. Ohio State's 3.5 out there at Oregon. Man, what a matchup this is. But I don't know. Oregon, I mean, I guess they've looked better the last few weeks. You know, obviously they kind of started a little slow. You know, Boise, Ashton Genty gave them all those problems. They beat Idaho by 10, but they had a ton of yards. They missed a few 4th downs. Gabriel's good. Ohio State traveling cross country. Do you have any thoughts on this one? I don't really have a read on it, but I never take road favorites, so I wouldn't.
Yeah, I mean this game's tight for me. I mean I'm real close to it being 3. So from a pure value standpoint, I can see making a slight case for Oregon plus 3.5, but I have to do a little bit more digging in this spot. And you mentioned this Oregon offense; it just hasn't looked right. Now I'm not sure if that's by design for Dan Lanning and Will Stein, and they want to try and hold back some of what this group can do in a game of this magnitude. But you look at the performance a couple of weeks ago against UCLA, they more or less ran it into the line of scrimmage the entire second half. I know the Bruins didn't really threaten them. Last week on a short, turnaround against Michigan State, I'm sure they frustrated a boatload of folks when they close a 21.5-point favorite, go up 31-0 in that game. And then it's Michigan State with Jonathan Smith electing to kick a field goal to sneak in the back door for that game to end 31-10. But on the flip side of it, we finally get a somewhat decent data point for Ohio State with their good second half performance against Iowa. But we've all lived through this Will Howard experience. Jeremiah Smith is an elite talent, and I think Oregon's going to really struggle to contain him in space. But if Oregon can stop the run, let's see if Ohio State can win with a pure purely dominated passing attack. We know Chip Kelly has a level of familiarity playing Oregon, and this has to probably be right up there in terms of what he wants to accomplish to take the Scarlet and Gray up there. But as it stands now, no strong feel for me on the side. I look at the total here, can make a slight case to go over as well if we think Oregon can test Ohio State's defense more than they've seen, and Dylan Gabriel can assert himself a bit. But I honestly think if you believe that Oregon has a chance to pull off the upset here as a 3.5-point dog, the better way to attack the game is to try and bet a little bit on Dylan Gabriel at 18-1 to win the Heisman, because if he goes out there, they win the game, and he throws for 2 touchdowns and 300 yards, we've seen how volatile that market is, and we could be talking about Dylan Gabriel going from 18-1 down to 8. So if you like Oregon, make sure you nibble a little bit on Gabriel to win the Heisman. I think it's a way to take on a little asymmetric risk.
That is a great thought, because right now the Heisman stuff seems pretty open. Travis Hunter getting a lot of run. Cam Ward, well-deserved run, but, I mean, Miami just, God, their defense just looked really slow. And, so I think it's still wide open. We saw Nico's falling off for Tennessee. Jackson Dart obviously falling off for Ole Miss. I mean, it seems like still kind of wide open. All right, Red River Shootout. I got to give that Oklahoma quarterback, the freshman, some credit. I know they won at Auburn when Auburn had 500 yards. I've never seen anything like Venables sending out a true freshman quarterback, first game to start at Auburn without his top 5 wide receivers. How the hell is that a real situation?
Hey, I think it was desperate times calling for desperate measures. I think you look at Jackson Arnold, and he clearly wasn't comfortable behind that makeshift offensive line. That was the Achilles heel for OU coming into the year, that they didn't think they were going to be able to protect up front, and that was readily apparent in the game against Tennessee, where they actually got bet from a 7.5-point home underdog to 5.5, and we're never really in that game. I know the scoreboard makes it look a little bit more competitive than it was, but the craziest part about that game on the Plains at Jordan-Hare, Mintzy, go through the box score and look at Oklahoma. There were 6 players on offense that touched the football. It was the quarterback in Hawkins, it was Javonte Barnes, their running back, and 4 receivers caught passes. If it wasn't for Peyton Thorne being in the giving mood with that pick 6 late in the game, we're talking about Oklahoma losing yet another contest where we'd seen that number move through 0. This is an interesting matchup, though, because if history has taught us anything about this Red River rivalry, games always seem to be closer than what that number indicates. Texas right now, north of a 2-touchdown favorite in this spot. Quinn Ewers, from what I've been told, has been working with the ones, even if he didn't start, the last couple games so they could get Arch some run. But we've also seen Quinn in big games when he's under duress, struggle with some of his decision-making. Now, I know the playoff was a little bit different, and we saw earlier this year against Michigan, but going up against a Brett Venables defense, in my opinion, a heck of a lot different than Wink Martindale, who blitzed at every turn, and Texas was able to play on their front foot. If I'm getting involved in this game, my initial inclination is to back OU in the first half, anything 7.5 or better, because I think that's where you'll see their playbook on full display, and it gives the defense a chance to make a game-changing play or two before Texas's pedigree and depth on the offensive side could wear them down some.
Yeah, my thing on Texas going forward, I know they're number 1 right now. Their secondary is kind of young and hadn't been tested at all, and I don't know that Oklahoma could test them with this true freshman quarterback. We're going to find out when they play Georgia and at Vandy back-to-back weeks behind this, because I feel like everyone's losing in college football, and I know it's anarchy, but like Texas, they crushed Michigan, but I still need to see more. I feel like let's not get the anointing oil out just yet here.
And look, I think you're completely within your rights to think that. You go through Texas's resume, and suddenly does that Michigan win with their quarterback situation, knowing that they couldn't throw the forward pass, hold up? Not really. The win over Mississippi State, pretty pedestrian in the grand scheme of things. Wins over Colorado State, UTSA. I think we're going to get a much better indication of exactly who the Longhorns are over the next 2 weeks. The game against Oklahoma and Dallas, and then, of course, following it up in what will be a tremendous sports weekend down there in Austin when you have Georgia coming to town, assuming they'll have players that aren't all in jail after the news that broke this morning. And, of course, the F1 Grand Prix down there in Austin the same weekend as well.
Yeah, and, hey, watch out. Texas got to go to Nashville to play Pavia off the Georgia game. So, who knows, man? That Pavia thing's – I mean, that dude is –
It's wild. Wild to see.
Living American legend. From Albuquerque, New Mexico. Watch Manziel's his hero. Watch Manziel beat Bama. He's watched the film of that game 100 times, and then he does it himself, wearing the number 10.
Hey, look, I respect anybody who's tweeting out his phone number or his burner number to try and get some of that NIL money. I mean, it's all about the hustle, trying to get it while you can. And the fact that they kept panning to his brothers in the stands, I mean, what an electric moment. I mean, I kind of joke with a couple of my buddies that are Vandy alums and don't live in the Nashville area. I go, are you guys even going to have enough fans in attendance to be able to storm the field? I mean, that legitimately felt like it was an Alabama home game, which you've come to expect. with about 80% a sea of crimson on the sidelines every time you got the panoramic shot during the broadcast.
No, I know. I just love to see it, though. I mean, look, Vandy's like top 30 this year. I mean, they beat VTech at home. They lost at OT at Missouri. Obviously, they had a terrible loss at Georgia State. But, like, everybody's acting like the world's ended. This is a totally different football team with Pavia. I mean, it's not near the embarrassment that people think it is, in my opinion.
Hey, I mean, Clark Lee said he completely overhauled the way that they were going about things for the football program. It's paying dividends now. And credit to Vandy. If you would have told me before the year they're going over 2.5 wins, but they're going to do it with a win over Alabama on the resume, I'd have laughed at you. And suddenly now I think Vandy has to have their sights set on trying to get bowl eligible, something that they haven't been able to do in a while. And for a coaching staff who's been given a little bit of a longer leash in one of the toughest places to win in the SEC, kudos to them, although a little bit of a daunting task to come down from that emotional high last weekend and go into Lexington this weekend as a 2-touchdown underdog against a well-rested Big Blue defense.
I got a very random game to ask you about, but it stuck out to me, and I got to mention it. Cal gets gutted, blows the 35-10 lead, loses 38-37 or 39-30, whatever it was, when Cam Ward got him at the end. Now they got to go cross-country to take on a sneaky Pitt team. Eli Holstein, former 5-star from St. Thomas More Lafayette, couldn't get on the field at Bama, transfers to Pitt, it's throwing for over 303 touchdowns every game. They got good receiving core. Cal's catching 3 at Pitt. And I know Pitt's power ranking still seems like it's a little undervalued, but this has got to – I mean, it almost seems too obvious to go against Cal. You get gutted like that with College game day on Saturday night, your marquee game. Now you got to travel cross-country to face a hot Pitt. I mean, I just feel like it's almost too obvious that they're going to get the crap kicked out of them here.
Look, I'm not going to sit here, Mintzy, and make a case for Cal whatsoever, because you talk about where they are from that emotional roller coaster, and to try and be able to scrape themselves up off the deck to take on a Pitt offense that's going to pose all sorts of challenges. Not the same way with NFL caliber talent as what they had to deal with Miami, but just the way, to your point, that game unfolded. I mean, Cal builds a 35-10 lead. It looks like Miami is completely dead and buried. I mean, Fernando Mendoza continues to hit big plays, and then one possession after another, Cal continues to fall apart. I still think that was targeting when Cal had a chance to run the clock out with about 2 minutes to go by the very definition. They don't call it. Cal's got to punt it. And then a busted coverage against the soft zone. Xavier Restrepo gets downfield. And we're talking about Miami snatching victory from the jaws of defeat for the second straight week. But I will not be on Cal here. My number's actually right in line with market at this point. But I think when you try and factor in some of the intangibles, you mentioned Eli Holstein and how well he's playing. I mean, this Pitt team, if they get off to a quick start, you could see a scenario where Cal's hard-pressed to try and match them score for score. One injury, though, to keep tabs on there, Desmond Reed, the Western Carolina transfer that came over with their offensive coordinator, Cade Bell. I know he finished the game against North Carolina, but continued to grab his foot. Pitt said it was cramps. It looked a little bit unusual to me. If he can't go, it changes a little bit of what Pitt can do on offense. They did get Rodney Hammond back last week, but Reed is a true game breaker, both as a runner and receiver, and accomplished something that some of the elite running backs at Pitt haven't done when he was a 100-yard receiver and a 100-yard runner earlier this year. I mean, Tony Dorsett didn't do it. Curtis Martin didn't do it. So it's a credit to the way they've utilized Reed's unique talents.
And that's why I listen to Bet the Board for exact deep analysis like that about the Pitt offense. All right, so Ole Miss LSU, before we get out of here, obviously this is the one I'm closest to. We text all the time about both these programs. Ole Miss opened. Man, this thing's been all over. I saw 3.5. I saw 2.5. My other gambling theory, other than the road favorite, loss, home dog, underdog, comeback thing, I hate road favorite minus 2.5 lines. I mean, anytime I see that line, I'm just like, I put like a triple star on the game, like rat line alert immediately. Last year it was LSU 2.5 in Oxford off the Ole Miss Bama game, and when I saw the line, I'm like, oh, I like Ole Miss. Now I've seen it at 3 now. Over under 64. I'm trying to get as much intel on this Trey Harris situation as possible because Lane Kiffin, Harris did get banged up. Lane said yesterday he wouldn't play if it was yesterday. He's from Lafayette by Baton Rouge. If he can walk, he's going to play in this game. I kind of, you never know what to believe on Lane, but if he's out, that obviously affects a lot of analysis because he's got twice as many yards as any other receiver in the SEC. But when I look at this game, and I know y'all look at it this way too. I kind of mentioned this. It's like when you're playing pool, you're looking for shots ahead. This Ole Miss over in this game because of the 2017 Kentucky and 27-3 South Carolina. People are off the scent of it, I think. And these Ole Miss LSU games, it was 55-49 last year. I've been going, this is my 22nd time in 25 years to go. These games fall off the rails every year. And I think like Ole Miss has a really good front seven. I'm not saying they don't, but they haven't played any quarterbacks that can throw in 6 weeks yet. And Nussmeier can chunk it. LSU's off a bye. They got a good receiving core. And I think Ole Miss is going to go up and down the field with their tempo in the LSU bus. So, I don't know. 64 is high, but I'm looking hard at this over.
It's interesting because these are the things that you get into in some of the mental gymnastics when you're handicapping games like this. Because if you dig into Ole Miss's numbers this year and you look at their schedule, they've played some of the worst defenses in the country early on. So there's a lot of noise in their non-conference numbers, beating up on the likes of, the Middle Tennessee States of the world, the Georgia Southerns, and Wake Forest. But Ole Miss has been an under team, so far this season, and they've come in under in a number of their games. You look at the way things unfolded last weekend in Columbia, and whether that was by design or South Carolina making some tweaks at halftime, it looked like the Rebels really struggled to create that balanced attack. Good call, by the way, out of you on Juice Wells. You texted me early in the week. You said you thought he was going to be a focal point in his homecoming and get home quite nicely with that 6-1 payday on him laddering up on some of those receiving yards. But this Ole Miss defense, I think, is going to pose some challenges for LSU that they necessarily haven't seen. And I had the chance to see LSU up close and personal way back in week 1 when they came out here to Allegiant, took on USC. And the one thing that looked a little bit different for me for LSU going into the bye against South Alabama, maybe they finally found RB1 that gives them a little bit more of that balance behind a talented offensive line that's going to give Nussmeier time in the pocket. If they're not as predictable in known passing situations, I think it gives them a path to creating that balanced attack. And defensively, to your point, look, Ole Miss has done a great job thus far, but this will be a little bit of a shock to the system. So I can't quite get to 64 yet. I don't have a bet on the under. And as far as the side is concerned, going to wait this thing out and see if I can make a case for LSU if they get to 3.5. But this is one of the games that I am most excited to watch this weekend and get another data point for these teams. But I wish I had stronger convictions, at least as it stands now from a betting perspective between these two teams. The one thing I will say, you have to factor in a little bit and try and come up with a numerical value for what LSU coming in off the bye is worth compared to Ole Miss having played 2 tough physical football games in as many weeks. You wonder what they have left in the tank. And, of course, the Trey Harris injury that you mentioned.
Look, I obviously hope Ole Miss pulls it out there being in my body. I will not be taking anything on that spread. Ole Miss hadn't won at LSU since 2008, and I'm just scarred from Death Valley Saturday night what that home field advantage is. And last year, Ole Miss was losing 49-40 with 5 minutes left and came back and won. So there's a revenge factor there as well, and there's a lot of animosity between the two fan bases. Well, Todd, man, just like I said, I want to say thank you for joining us. I love Bet the Board. Y'all follow At the Board Pod on Twitter. If you like gambling knowledge, I get a lot of my stuff from them, and you should too. I'm going to get Payne on here soon for sure too. I've always
good luck. Sometimes getting Payne to appear on camera is like pulling teeth, but if there's anybody that can do it, you're going to have to tap into that charm that you've got. He may get one of those FBI detectors in front of him, so you may be able to get his voice. He'll modulate his voice, but you won't get his pretty face in there. But Mintzy, before you let me go, I got a question for you.
Go ahead. What you got?
ULM going to take care of business, or are we talking letdown when they get a pop gun offense in USM coming in? Because suddenly the Warhawks have a chance to go 5-1, and we're talking about bowl eligibility being on the table for a program that hasn't potentially made a whole lot of waves when it comes to postseason prosperity in the program's illustrious history.
No, so shout out. We got to talk about Bryant Vincent, this coach, because UAB had him and passed when he was an interim and let him go for Trent Dilfer, who just lost by 60 to UAB, and ULM beat him 32-6 in their revenge game. And Vincent was the OC at New Mexico, comes to ULM. They don't it's hometown. They don't have any money. He's built this thing up, and they've got a good running back. They have a good defense, and I actually think ULM will continue to take care of business because I like the quarterback switch. They've got the kid they got in there now came with him from New Mexico, and at least knows the offense. I'm friends with the Booty family, but it just wasn't working out with General. He was really, really struggling, and so I think them having a guy in there that knows the offense and can pass a little better, I think they should be fine, and they're hyped up. So Southern Miss is hard. They're horrible. I don't know if it's the NIL thing, but they have a good tradition, but they're bad.
Yeah, it hasn't exactly been the best and most optimistic outlook for things that have transpired at USM over the last decade or so, given the gold standard that they had created in those Conference USA days where you could kind of pencil them in as conference champions. And you look at that drive summary last week in a game they covered against Louisiana Lafayette. Not the prettiest thing or Picasso by any stretch, but it's always interesting. You talk a little bit about teams that lose as a road favorite and come home the following week as a home underdog. The same thing can be said about teams who win outright as more than a 2-touchdown underdog, like ULM did against JMU and now forced to win by margin laying points. Part of the reason you've seen the dog take a little bit of money from the 7 down to 6.5 earlier today.
All right. Thank you for that tip. I'm going to start looking for that. And, one other quick one, too. I said the 2.5 point line. Do you think there's anything you can read? Like I said, when they put it, I feel like 6.5 point underdogs do well a lot. Like, when they put these lines out, they're like baiting you on the under touchdown and under field goal. But am I like reading too much into that? Because I saw NFL 6.5 point dogs have like a really good record too.
It's one of those things that I think I was conditioned the same way coming up through the ranks, that a number, and this is going to sound like a cliche because quite frankly it is, that every line tells a story. So if there's a price that's listed and it's just short of a key number or just taller than a key number, you may want to dig into something that you probably haven't uncovered in the first pass in terms of handicapping that game. But what's different about the betting market now than the one that you and I grew up in, 20, 25 years ago, is around these key numbers, you're starting to see a lot more professional bettors just take positions. In a game that's 7, they're more than happy to try and take the 7 if they think it's going to tick down to 6.5, and they'll figure out what to do with it later. And unfortunately, I found myself on the wrong side of the ledger in an NFL game on Sunday, with the same mindset, kept waiting and waiting and waiting to be able to grab the Bengals +3 at home against the Baltimore Ravens. Number never got there. It took 2.5. Lo and behold, they blow multiple double-digit leads in the fourth quarter. So for every storyline that you have right around those key numbers, I don't have any of the empirical or numerical data to share there, but it definitely does leave you scratching your head when you're going, why is this game 2.5 compared to 3.5? And why is this game sitting on the wrong side of 7, whether it's 7.5 one way or 6.5 the other? If it looks too good to take the favorite or the underdog in either case, normally it's too good to be true.
Yeah, that Bengals was a sore spot for me. I had a max, so I've been messing around. Something I've been talking about lately. I found some value on this. When you're doing the crazy parlays with the same game stuff, the alternate yardage stuff is where the value is to build the big odds. I maxed out Joe Burrow 325 and Jamar Chase 120 with Bengals money line at 30-1. And they were up 38-28, and I ended up when the Ravens were down 38-35, I hedged out at 30-1. I hedged out for 6 units on Ravens money line to get a little bit back.
Yeah, you at least came away with something. But Mintzy, here's the thing: you've been in this racket a long time. You got your big score on Saturday with that 3-team money line parlay. You know the gambling gods are going to get their pound of flesh. So you got to tiptoe a little bit for the next couple of weeks and make sure you're still playing with a little bit of house money there, because those scores don't come around often. And when you tempt the fates like that, they tend to get a few bad beats here and there. But kudos to you for having the foresight to see that and land a pretty healthy ticket from what I saw.
Yeah, man, we're doing. Yeah, we had a big. Yeah.
On Saturday.
Yeah, we had a big week. Yeah. Well, Todd, thank you so much. Follow at Todd Ferman at Bet the Board. Appreciate you coming on, and I love keeping up with y'all. We'll always continue to do it.
Hey, always a pleasure, my friend. Thanks for having me.
Shout out Stella Blue, Dude Wipes. We're gonna get out of here. We've got Hold the Mayo, Devin Snow tomorrow in front of Ole Miss, LSU, and the Saints. Can't wait to catch up and wake up with him. And y'all take it easy. Let's have a hell of a day, boys. Thank you.